Welcome all to the weekly outlook. Boone here from EWPRO, getting straight into it, starting with the DXY on the daily. We got this 5 down. We can look at it either 5 down, or we get a larger correction in here for the flat, which is what I've been looking at. This is a larger correction. We just get 3 down in here, larger correction, and then more downside. As it's unfolding, we did have that bear hidden. So in here, so I wouldn't be surprised if this does break the low, but there is another scenario here. If I just take these off, if we look at this as 5 down in here, we can look at this as an A, a B, and a C up in here, and we get the larger flat in here before we get the A, B, C. So this is the way I'm looking at it now. We get an A, B, C in here, probably just breaking that low to complete that bear hidden, and then we get another one up here for the larger flat. This may be expanding, or it's just a running flat. We'll have to see. On the H4, we virtually rolled out that that wave Z up. We sort of got WXY. This was looking corrective, and we get one down in here. So we pretty much rolled out that wave Z. This was too deep. For the sell, if you got into the sell, well, you'd be already in it. Next week, if you wanted to trade this, you could look for a correction in here and then another one down. You will have to be careful, because as soon as the low gets broken, if I just go back to the daily, as soon as this low here gets broken, I dare say it won't go much past this low here, and then we'll get that one up there. If I just go down to the M15 quickly, you could trade it. Oh, you can't really trade it on the M15. You'd be looking for a correction, you know, and then you could look for downside. AU on the daily. So this is starting to form a correction in here. So I'm looking at it as an A, B, C, and we get that C up to the 100 fib. This may be turning more complex, looking at the lower time frames at this stage, sort of like DXY. We get like an A, we get a B in here, and then we get a C down, and then we get the larger A, B, C for a flat before we get more downside. I think we have it. No, we didn't have a bull hidden there. So now you can only buy on the H1. You can only buy. You have to wait for a correction in here. So look for a correction Monday and Tuesday, and then you could look for a buy for at least an A, B, C. EU on the daily. This is going pretty much how we're looking at it. If I just zoom out a bit. So we're looking at that A, B, C in here as that flat, and then we get that larger C up to the 100 fib, or it may get up to this trend line and see some resistance around there. This was looking bullish in here, like I mentioned last week, or the last couple of weeks. So it's finally broken out. There are a couple of scenarios here. We get like 1, 2, 3 down, and then we get 1, 2, 3 before we get a larger A, B, C, before it gives the even larger A, B, C. At this stage, though, you can only really buy this on the H1. So we got this nice impulse up here, non-farm payroll. You'll be looking for a correction Monday, Tuesday, and then more upside. very similar to AU, and you'd be targeting the 100 pip. The first target would be that 100 pip, A, B, C, wherever that 100 pip is. And you'd be wanting to get it to break even at the break of this top. First targeting that 100 pip. It's too early to draw the fibs at this stage. GU on the daily. This is getting quite complicated. I'm looking at that like A, B, C, and we get an extended wave in the wave C. Like I've been mentioning for weeks now, we get a WX, Y, X2, Z up to that 100 pip. H4 sort of, I was sort of looking for an A, B, C, possibly C down in here before it goes. It's already gone, which is fine. We're looking for upside. It may be a little bit hard to get in on this one now. You really had to get in before non-farm payroll, which was tricky because it come down and broke this lows in here. So we got some sort of an A, B, C in here before we get that like W, X, Y. So if I just quickly put those fibs on where this can actually get to, so this wave Y in here may get up to this 161.8 or even higher, or not quite get there, and then you'd be looking for an X2, and then you could trade that Z up. NU on the daily, very similar. We're looking at that A, B, C up to the 100 fib on the daily. It's very choppy in here, so it is quite challenging to get into the trade. You can only buy it now. We got a nice impulse up correction, and we'll be looking for more buys on the H1. We have just broken this top. We have just broken that top there, so you'd be looking for a correction and then more upside, very similar to GU. GY on the daily, so nothing's changed on this. Looking at that WXY, and we're getting an extended wave in the wave Y, so we're getting a WXY. I'll be looking for an X2 and then a Z up to finish off that wave Y. So really we're looking for this correction in here, and we'll be looking for, if you're looking for the short, you'll be targeting that 38.2 to start off with. The H4, we really, well, the daily, we're bouncing off that 123.6, finding resistance around there. There really isn't much of a sell setup on it at this stage, and I wouldn't be looking for the buys. We're at a top. I'll be more interested in waiting for the correction and then looking for the buy. It's not really giving a sell setup though. That's the problem. So we got a nice move down in there. We may be getting a flat in here if I just go down to the M15. So sharp move down, an A, look at that as a B, and a C. We got the flat in there for the A, B, C. This is looking more bullish here again now though, so it's, I would have been looking for something in here to sell. Instead, it's come straight down, and it's giving more of a buy setup in here. Again, I wouldn't be risking the buy. This can just be an A, B, C in here before you get larger A, B, C breaking the low for the A, B, C. UY, on the daily. So we're finally starting to get a correction in here, like I've been mentioning for a long time now. I've been looking for an A, B, C. I've been waiting for this C down for a long time. Looks like it's finally starting to give this one down in here, and really need this one down in here so then we can look for a buy for at least an A, B, C, and it may even go and break the top. So is there a sell on it? At this stage, you know, we do have all this bearish divergence. That's why we're not buying this. We're waiting for the sell. Yeah, you really have to wait for a correction. You could trade bearish flags down here, but yeah, it's I'd be only looking for the sells, you know. And if I just adjust this fib here, it's already at the top. So you'd be targeting that 100 fib, the 136.73 area. USD CAD. So we're looking at that WXY. We're looking for an X2 in here and then a Z up. Whether this is over or not, it's hard to tell. As you can see, I was just looking for an A, B, C in here before we get another one down, filling in that time factor of the first correction and then looking for upside. Only looking for buys. We had a nice flag in here, a little correction, and we got 3 up in here. So I'll just go down to the H1. We're looking for this C up. We're looking for an A. We're looking for a buy in here, and we get that impulse up in here. Now it's come straight back down, but we're starting to get a bull hidden. So you do have to be careful. You may get a sell. If you get a correction in here, you may get a sell. It'll only be a scalp more than likely. I mean, it may keep on going, but with that bull hidden present, you've got to be very careful. You may just get an A, B, C in here, not breaking this low, and then you get like a W, X, Y, X2, and a Z up. I wouldn't be surprised if this is what we get in here. I don't think we have bearish divergence. No, we don't have bearish divergence between the two tops. So yeah, you'll have to be careful. It really will depend on, if I just go down to the M15 quickly, it will really depend on how deep this correction goes. If we get a very deep correction in here and then another one down, well, you know, more than likely we'll get another one up. If this just stays down here, gives you a bearish flag, it can go and break the low. So we really need to watch what sort of sell setup we get in here. You can take the sell, like I said. You just have to be very careful because it may just be an A, B, C. So you definitely want to be at break even at the break of this low. The Swissy on the daily. Nothing's really changed on this. We're looking at that A, B, C. We got all that bullish divergence. The problem was after this C down, this was looking quite corrective, and now we're getting some sort of an A, B, C in here. So I dare say we're getting a larger correction. So we get like an A, B, C in here, and then we get that A, B, C, some sort of a flat. It may be the same size correction as that over here, and then we get a Z down for an A or W, X, Y, X2, and a Z down. Either way, this has been looking bearish. Like I've been mentioning, when we look at the H4, it's it's going the way I was looking at it, but it's been very slow in here. I was looking at it as that A, B, C as that expanding flat, and we go down and break the low. We're just about breaking the lows now. I mean, you could have sold this, but I'm more interested in the buy. We're at the bottom of the market on this, you know. So for the sell, if you wanted to get into this, I mean, there is no buy set up at this stage. It's a sell. We've got sort of some sort of a WXY. So you'd be waiting for an X2 and a Z down. You'd be looking for a bear hidden in here. And then another one down. EG on the daily. Nothing's really changed on the daily on this. We're getting at A, B, C. Possibly down to that 100 pip. We are losing all the bullish divergence on this. So it possibly can get down a lot further. H4. This sort of looks not very nice. I mean, it's starting to look like we'll get a buy in here, but it may be just for a flat. Sort of got like an A, B, C in here as an expanding flat before we get an A, B, C as a larger correction before we get more downside. A, B, C. Really, you know, we got all that bullish divergence, so you can really only buy it or only look for buys. There's no bear hidden. There's bullish divergence on the H1. Yeah, if I just go down to the M15 quickly. See, we got a nice impulse up. Would have been looking for the buy. This may be just a flat as a regular flat, A, B, C, and then we get more downside. You can look for a buy. Whether there's a buy on it, you may get an A, B, C in here, a little flat on the lower time frames, and then you could look for the A, B, C, C up. It's more scalping though. There's no real signs of a reversal on it at this stage. WTI, looking at that WXY, larger correction, and we got another one down, breaking the low. We got all that bullish divergence. The problem was after we got this one down, breaking the low with all the bullish divergence, if I just zoom in a bit, we started to get a nice impulse up, but then we started to get that long correction. So I was just looking for an A, B, C, and then come down to break the low. It's still going to be more than likely an A, B, C. We still get that C up. Like I said last week, I'm still looking for that C up. And then possibly we get more downside. So we get like an A, B, C in here, and then we get an A, B, C. May turn into a larger flat before we get more downside. Either way, we're just looking for that buy. Well, last couple of weeks, we've just been looking for the buys because I was looking on the H4 at A, B, C. This one did complete. I would have liked to get it up to that 100 fib. It never got up there. Then we had that nice impulse down correction. It's becoming very messy. We got like 1, 2, 3 in here, and then we get 1, 2, 3 like I showed last week. Before we get more downside, and all this is just correction. It's very flat. But yeah, any buy setup, I've just been looking for buyers on this. Now, if you wanted to get into the buy, we do have a high here. So you'd be looking for a little correction in here, and then you could look for more upside. Gold on the daily. Nothing's really changed on this. I'm still looking at it the same way as like an A, B, C, and we get that A, B, C flat in here. before we get an A, B, C as a larger correction, before we get the larger A, B, C, possibly up to that 123.6 or even the 161.8 on the daily targets. On the weekly targets. Just been looking for buys on this. So we're looking for that C up. This was very difficult to trade, but you really have to go down onto the lower time frames. You'll be looking at some sort of an A, a B, and a C up, or WXY. This may turn motive. Looking at what we're looking at on the wave, on the H4, we're looking for that C up, so there is quite a bit of room up. I'll just go down to the M15 quickly. So we got this impulse up in here. This is looking corrective in here, so you'd be looking for more upside. You may get a bull hidden in here, and more than likely you'll get a bull hidden in here, and then you can look for that buy. Silver on the daily. So again, there's a couple of scenarios here. We got those 5 up in here, and we lost all that bearish divergence like I've been mentioning, so I'm just looking for a correction in here and more upside. H4, this is still looking very much corrective in here. So it is quite difficult to buy. You can see how corrective this is looking. So if you're looking for the buy, you have to be very careful. This can be an A, B, C in here, a flat, and then you get that A, B, C. So if you're getting in on this here after a correction, you have to be very careful. It might just be an A, B, C up and then fall over on you. So you will have to get it to break even if you're looking for the buy. Monitor your trade. Really, yeah, you'd be looking for some sort of WXY, X2, and possibly a Z up in here. Again, you'd have to be very careful trying to buy this, because it may be that flat. Just come up here, break that top. It's already completed. It's already broken this A, B, C. It's already completed. Well, it can be completed any time now. It's broken this ending point of wave A, so it can fall over at any time. So you will have to be. You want a really nice setup on the lower time frames to buy this, and it's really. I mean, it may take off on you on the buy, but you'd have to be careful. Bitcoin on the daily. So if I zoom out, so I'm looking at that A, B, C, and we get an extended wave C in here for that expanding flat before we get more downside. The targets for this wave Z were that 123.6 and that 161.8. This is looking rather corrective in here, so I wouldn't be surprised if we get another one up to at least that 123.6. So if you're looking for the buy in here, this would be your first target, that 123.6, and then the 161.8. You can see how corrective this is looking. It did go up and break the top here. That's the problem. We're looking for, it's already gone and broken the top. It's still looking very much corrective, and it's not really giving any sell setups. So it's more bullish still. It's quite difficult because we've already broken this top over here and we got all that bearish divergence, so it does get quite risky to buy. You sort of getting a sell set up in here. You could look for this sell. You got a nice impulse down from the top. Look for a correction in here. If you get a nice correction in here, you could look for at least an A, B, C. Yeah, it's really bearish now. You can really only buy above that top now. So yeah, it gets risky unless you go down to the lower time frames. It's really only a sell. You can really only look for the sell on the H1. S&P 500. This may be complete now. We got that A, B, C up to that 100 pip, the first target. I think we did lose the bearish divergence in there, but it was finding a lot of resistance at this 100 fib. I'll just show you that trade. So this was a S&P. We're looking for that buy here. So this is the first target and the second target. So this is complete. We got that A, B, C. So yeah, if you want to follow me on TradingView, every now and then I do put out a trade. So now, like I mentioned, this was looking corrective. We're looking for another one up. We got another higher high here. It hasn't really fallen over though. I would have really liked to see this low here get broken, give a correction, and then we could definitely look for more downside. This may be some sort of an A, 1, 2, 3 up in here as a flat. Before we get A, B, C, more upside. So it's become quite difficult to trade because we do have the bearish divergence, but we have a bull hidden here. So again, this may go and break the top. I dare say by the look at this on the M15 would have a bull hidden here. Did it? Oh no, it did break the low, I think. No, it didn't break the low. So you have to be very careful selling, because ideally it goes and breaks this low, taking out the bull hidden, because we have a possible bull hidden there. So this can take off and give us another one up. So you will have to be careful. Ideally it comes down, breaks this low, and then gives you a bearish correction, and then you could look for downside. And I would be more interested in downside because we're breaking off of that. We're getting a break off that 100 fib there. AU 200. This was quite difficult. I was looking for that A, B, C. Instead, we got that large correction in here. And then we got this like A. This is looking corrective, and we're looking for that C up. And I was sort of expecting like 5 up in here. But all it's given us is an A, B, C. That's the top there. It's very choppy. We're looking for that sell. Been looking for this sell here, like I've been mentioning. Once we got that down in there, we're just looking for a sell to go and break this low. Now we're getting that like A, B, C. We're starting to get that bullish divergence. So it's really need to wait to see. I dare say you can only buy this on the lower time frame. If we go down to the M15, you'd be sort of looking for a correction in here for at least like an A, B, C, and then you'd have to be careful because you may get more downside, and more than likely you will get more downside. So if you're looking for the buy, you have to be reasonably careful, you know. The FTSE on the daily, this is like that A, B, C, A, B, C. We've got that A, B, C. This wave up in here did go and break the ending point of that. So technically it can be over. And yeah, we're on the H4, we were looking for 5 down in here, looking for that 1, 2, 3, this correction here. We got that other one down. So I said last week, you know, you can start to look for a buy. This is looking corrective, and we've got another one down in here. So more than likely, you know, I mean, there is no buy set up on it. You know, we've got all this, there's no bullish divergence in here. So you'd be looking for some sort of a WXY, X2. You'd be waiting for this X2, and then you'd be looking for that Z down. That's how I'd be trading it. And this wave in here, this wave Y, may not be over yet. You'd really have to go down to the lower time frames to find out what's going on. You'd have to go right down onto the lower time frames, but you're getting some sort of a WXY. You'd be looking for an X2 and a Z down, like I mentioned. I wouldn't be looking, I mean, you could look for the buy, just scalping, but yeah, it's not looking, the buy is very risky. You can see how choppy this is looking. Like it's breaking the top, giving deep correction, break the top, give deep correction, and it can go on like this for quite some time. I'd be more interested in waiting for X2 to finish and then looking for the Z down. And finally, the DAX, like I said last week, it's only a matter of time before this falls over. And you can't really look for buys. Like I've been mentioning, we've got all that bearish divergence. Haven't been looking for buys on this for a long time. Well, only scalps basically. This one here, it's, I think last week we were only looking for the sell. We got this was the top here. We got that impulse down, looking for a correction, and then another one down. Pretty sure that's what we were looking for last week. Looking for this in here. So we had that impulse down. Not much of a correction, but yeah. So this is very similar to the FTSE. You'd be looking at it as like a WXY. This wave Y may not be over. You'd be waiting for it to be over and then looking for an X2, and then you'd be looking to trade that Z down. So I hope you enjoyed the weekly outlook. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you out there next week.